With a reported runtime of just over 3 hours, there's definitely going to be a lot packed into the upcoming Avengers Endgame. We're almost certainly going to say goodbye to some beloved characters and welcome back some favorites that blew away in the wind. While there'll be some pathos and humor and resolution, it's still an Avengers movie, which is sure to include some epic battles. Here are just a few that we're looking forward to. Movies have given us some very specific rules. When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. Always bet on black, and when it comes to using a Thanos-killing weapon, aim for the head. After Thor's bad week got worse when the Mad Titan intercepted the refugee Asgardians and have them, they'd already been through a lot. You couldn't have just called the job already done. Thor went on a quest to get a new weapon capable of ending Thanos. His hammer, Mjolnir, of course, had been smashed by his big sis. Sibling rivalries, am I right? Thanos made getting that weapon no small feat. Nidavellir was shut down, and he ended the lives of all the dwarves except Eitri. Tyrion? Oh, Eitri, whose hands were turned to stone. After taking a dying star to the face and having Team Groot sacrifice his arm for a handle, Stormbreaker was finally ready, and it was properly epic, cutting right through a full blast from the gauntlet. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and the snap happened. We're eager to see that rematch. Thor is clearly looking for another shot at the Mad Titan, and we're pretty sure he won't miss this time. There's another Avenger who had a one-on-one with Thanos and might want to get a rematch. In the opening minutes of Infinity War, while Thanos and the Black Order monologued all over the fallen Asgardians, Loki tried to use a familiar ace in the hole by pointing out that they had a Hulk. While the ever-loving Hulk had been hulking out on Sakaar for the past 2 years as a champion gladiator in the games of the Grandmaster, he still wasn't prepared for the Power Stone-equipped Titan. While the Hulk has taken some losses in the past, they were usually either games of attrition, someone interfering, or the Hulk getting bored and just leaving on his own. He hadn't met anyone who simply outfought him in a straight match. The Russo brothers had rejected the interpretation that the Hulk was afraid, but rather frustrated with his arrangement with Banner, and the loss had made him reevaluate. This means that the Hulk was a no-show against the Black Order both in New York and Wakanda. With Professor Hulk more or less confirmed for Endgame, the rematch between the Hulk and Thanos is sure to be a thriller. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has drawn several stories from the pages of the comics, but each of them have been dramatically different. The Civil War storyline wasn't started by a team of superheroes on a reality show in over their head, and Age of Ultron was more of a short period of Ultron, where he managed to cause quite a lot of damage. Likewise, Infinity War has borrowed the base story of the Infinity Gauntlet series, with Thanos gathering the Infinity Stones, or gems, to snap out half of all living creatures in the universe. In the comics, he did it to impress actual death, while in the movies, he got a more misguided sense of altruism. One of the elements from the comic book storyline is the ever unpredictable Nebula. At one point in the conflict, she gets her hand on that gauntlet, and the power goes to her head immediately, forcing everyone to have a fight with the power-mad Nebula. Given Nebula's single-mindedness in the MCU, and her compounded anger at Thanos, it's easy to see her going over the edge in Endgame, causing everyone to have to team up to stop her. Yeah, make that happen. One of the more surprising reveals in the run-up to Endgame was that one Brock Rumlow would be making an appearance. When we last saw Rumlow, he was in full-on Crossbones mode and willing to sacrifice himself to take out Captain America and the Avengers. His explosion and Scarlet Witch's inability to save everyone led directly to the Sokovia Accords and the Civil War that actually split the Avengers up. Or like a band on hiatus. While it could be a flashback, it's increasingly clear that time travel is going to play a big part in the resolution of Avengers Endgame, meaning that Earth's mightiest heroes are going to be revisiting their recent past, including old foes. As we remember from Civil War, Rumlow really hates Captain America and Falcon after they brought down a trio of helicarriers on the Hydra double agent. Since that event, he got into the arms dealing game and upgraded his gear to better suit fighting off super soldiers and the superpowered people they run with, and Black Widow, of course. As a classic Captain America villain, it'd be cool to see the two rivals duke it out one last time. Give us what we want, Marvel! Another one of the behind-the-curtain reveals is that the crew had only one day with Tilda Swinton, who, of course, played the Ancient One in the Doctor Strange movie. Now, in that movie, the Ancient One's long run of being alive came to an end during a slow-motion lightning strike, but for someone like the Ancient One, death can be just an inconvenience. In these kinds of epic stories where the mentor dies, they generally find a way to come back and give their students one or more final lessons. Odin came back to tell Thor he's not the god of hammers. T'Challa is able to visit the spirit realm to chew out his dad for his bad decisions, really bad decisions. Jedis can't seem to get rid of their mentors either. These are usually pep talk visions, but the Ancient One was is the Sorcerer Supreme. She might be able to pack more of a punch when she pulls off the ghost comeback, with Doctor Strange mounting a fairly decent challenge to the 4-stone Thanos by utilizing some classic comic book spells. The two teaming up together might be able to off-balance the Mad Titan enough to make a difference this time around. Yeah, they'd be quite the duo. With leaks, set photos, rumors, and YouTube channels parsing out every morsel of information to try to predict the outcome of the third Avengers movie, it still managed to pack more than a few surprises. One of those was the reveal of who was filling the role of Guardian of the Soul Stone, none other than Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull himself. It turns out that the Space Stone took a dim view of Red Skull's ambitions and drafted him into the role of docent for it. Who was doing that job before? What happened to them? Who knows? The Red Skull is the signature villain for Captain America, and in the movies, he's only faced off against him for half a movie before he was sucked into space for his new job, with Endgame possibly being the swan song for Chris Evans' Captain America. Giving Cap another shot at the Red Skull would really make things come full circle for the star-spangled super soldier. If it weren't for Red Skull, Cap might have gotten his dance with Peggy. It'd be nice to get a little payback for that, don't you think? Maybe that date he still had was one with Red Skull. The power differential in the Avengers has always been pretty dramatic. On one end, you have S.H.I.E.L.D. super agents Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, and Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. They've relied on nothing but their training and a few unique, if a little archaic weapons. It's something that hasn't escaped Hawkeye's notice, noting that he was on a flying city fighting an army of robots with a bow and arrow. That's what you brought, Clint. There was a whole ship of other more efficient weapons back there. While there's still a lot of untapped power in the Avengers power couple of Vision and Scarlet Witch, the big dogs of the Avengers have been the ever-loving Hulk and Thor, the God of Thunder. With the arrival of Captain Marvel and her spaceship-smashing photon blasts, there's a new contender on the block. The rule is that heroes dust up before they team up, and who better to take that role than Thor to test the mettle of the newest Avenger? Don't expect the score to be settled in that fight though, because the hero fight is almost always a draw, or there's something that interferes before there's a clear winner. It's not about who's best, since it always ends up in them building a healthy respect for each other and their abilities. Heroes over time can go through a few identities, like a garage band that goes through a ska phase and then a metal phase. If the Avengers were a ska band, who would be the horn section? Definitely Paul Rudd. Give it to Paul Rudd, yeah. Anyway, Hank Pym's Ant-Man has been Ant-Man, Giant Man, and even Yellow Jacket. Oh yeah, comic book Yellow Jacket was just Hank Pym's emo phase. Clint Barton is no stranger to the identity game in the comics. He passes on his Hawkeye mantle at some point to Kate Bishop, and after a series of unfortunate events involving death and resurrection, comic book stories can get so convoluted, can't they? He adopted the new identity of Ronin, which came in with new weapons. Not modern weapons, but everyone has to have a gimmick, right? With Ronin set to be Clint's new jam in Endgame, we're all looking forward to the smackdown that precedes his reveal in the first Endgame trailer. After sitting out Infinity War and not taking the events of Civil War particularly well, we've been wanting to check in on the avenging Archer, and seeing him put some new sword fighting skills on display should be a thrill. Plus, we might get an explanation about that haircut. Clench up, Legolas. There are some fights where it really doesn't matter who it's against. We just want to see the heroes in action. Ever since their split and the epic showdown in Civil War, the leader and financier of the Avengers have been at odds. Even when faced with the impending threat of Thanos and all that comes with it, Tony is reluctant to make that phone call to Steve Rogers and bury the hatchet. By his own assessment, Cap and Iron Man fell out hard, and even a threat as big as Thanos couldn't mend the rift. It's really quite sad. But that was before the snap. Now it's after the snap, and the two former friends are going to have to put the past behind them and avenge the Earth like they were meant to. With the rift that existed between the two heroes being rooted all the way back to their first team-up, where they got into a chest-bumping fight before Loki unleashed the Hulk, it'll be satisfying to see them come together one last time as heroes to save the day. With one or both of them probably bowing out in Endgame, it'd be their last chance. Just hug it out, you two. God! One of the things that has been promised with the arrival of Captain Marvel is that she'll play a key role in the fight against Thanos. It's hard to say what role that would be, but given what her power comes from, she's set to make a serious dent. With cosmic-powered heroes, often there isn't much of a challenge in their individual fights until they meet another being just as powerful as they are. We know that Danvers can take on the Accusers and their fleet of bombers, and if she doesn't hold back, the Kree and Skrull alike, but she hasn't yet faced someone with the kind of power that Thanos has. She'll likely be a tipping point, as individually, the different Avengers had managed to hold their own at least temporarily against Thanos, so together, they stand a much better chance. The fight will also be a bit of a wake-up call for the newest Avenger, like it was for everyone else who faced the Mad Titan. This would even mean we get an extended fight between very powerful characters where neither of them have to hold back. It's the kind of epic showdown that only a comic book movie can provide, and we can't wait. Here's a bit of a wild pitch for you, but it'd be so amazing. Hear us out. While Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet has taken a beating with the snap, he's still in possession of all the 6 Infinity Stones, which grants him a wide range of powers and abilities that Thanos has barely scratched the surface of. With the remaining Avengers likely to live up to their name by taking the fight to Thanos, it's possible that one of the tricks up his sleeve would be to animate the fallen Avengers as a personal army to defend himself against the surviving Avengers. Not only would it be a throwback to one of the most epic battles in the MCU, but it'd be an emotional gut punch to the surviving Avengers who'd be mourning the passing of their friends only to see them fight for Thanos. It'd be a break from the hordes of faceless foes like aliens or robots, or even more aliens, that make up the mass battle scenes of the modern superhero, and would add a lot of the pathos we're looking for at the end of the Infinity Saga. It might also be the mistake Thanos makes, which allows the Fallen to come back. It's an outside shot, but we'd love to see it. It has the potential to be one of the most iconic scenes in MCU history. There's another wild pitch that's founded a bit in the comics, and would be a way to bring back some of the MCU in line with the comic book Infinity Gauntlet storyline. We've discussed the main difference between the comic storyline and the cinematic one, primarily the motivation. While the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't have a personification of death, it does have a goddess of death in the form of Hela. When we last saw Hela, she was trying to keep Surtur from destroying her source of power, Asgard. We really haven't explored what the afterlife is for Asgardians in the MCU, but in the comics they're stuck in a cycle of destruction and rebirth, all to power those who sit above in the shadow. It's all just very creepy. If Thanos ends up in an afterlife where the Norse goddess is hanging out, he might form that relationship he had with Death in the comics, which could set the stage for a rematch between Hela and the Asgardians, even providing a door for Loki to come back just in time for his Disney streaming series, unless that's a prequel, of course. Either way, it would be cool to see, and an excuse for more Led Zeppelin, which is always a good thing. With the Hulk sitting out most of Infinity War, it has to have taken a toll on the Hulk's other half, Bruce Banner. The ever-loving Hulk could have made a difference in New York and in Wakanda, where Banner had to ride the Hulkbuster armor. It's fairly likely that Banner isn't going to take any chances during Endgame and wait for the Hulk to join the battle on his own. All signs point to Professor Hulk, a more balanced fusion of the brain of Banner and the brawn of Hulk. This wouldn't be the first time that Banner has taken the wheel of the big green wrecking machine. Professor Hulk was a result of a merger between Banner, the Savage Hulk, which is the green wrecking machine we know and love, and the Grey Hulk, a more aware but morally ambiguous Hulk. Banner has taken the wheel in other ways, by getting an extra dose of gamma radiation or even through magic. No matter how he's done it though, Savage Hulk has never taken it well, and once he's gotten control back, he tends to go full Hulk and take it out on whoever is nearest, which in this case might be the Avengers. Again. Ant-Man was one of the heroes that sat out the events of Infinity War. It turns out he had problems of his own, trying to rescue Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm while fending off Ghost, all while under house arrest. Turns out trained giant ants are handy, but it sure doesn't seem like it in the movie Them. Scott Lang is a bit of a wild card on the assembled superheroes. He threw Team Iron Man for a loop, not only sneaking inside Iron Man's armor, but also growing large and wrecking things in the airport. While Garrett Morris might have had a laugh or two at Ant-Man's superpowers, it turns out shrinking small has its advantages. There's even a fan theory about Ant-Man shrinking small and finding his way inside a part of Thanos' anatomy before growing large. Marvel had to dismiss it, and we can't cover it in this video, but look it up. You'll understand why. Even outside the possibility of orifice spelunking, the variable size hero is sure to bring something new to the fight against Thanos. When you add time travel to his bag of tricks, it gets even more enticing. One of the cooler shots in the second Avengers Endgame trailer, and there were a lot of cool ones, had to be Rocket hanging off the shoulder of War Machine. It's reminiscent of his usual perch off Groot in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. In two Guardians movies and Infinity War, we've gotten to know Rocket's fetish for weapons, so having him team up with a literal walking weapon platform makes perfect sense. James Rhodes is no stranger to fast-talking characters, being besties with one Tony Stark. Until Rocket can reunite with the dusted teen Groot, it's the next best thing. It's almost certain that most of their relationship will be based on Rocket trying to get parts of the armor and getting excited at the arsenal of weapons in the suit. But who, aside from Thanos, could they fight? There's a missing member of the Black Order the two could be fighting, and that's Supergiant. While you might be thinking her power is being extra giant, she's actually a telepath who feeds on intellect. Rocket has already been relentless on poorly named villains with ill-defined themes. Remember Taserface? So Supergiant would be the perfect match for the pair. Those are just some of the matchups we'd like to see in Avengers Endgame. Hopefully Thanos will get beat up for taking T'Challa and Peter Parker from us. What are some fights you'd like to see? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, be sure to subscribe to CBR and ring the notifications bell. Thanks for watching.